she was there, and then she wasn't. One moment, a woman is caught on camera walking alone through a parking lot at night, moving with quiet purpose toward a road that would swallow her whole. The next morning, she is gone. And when they finally found her, it took them less than an hour, less than 60 minutes to locate what searchers had been desperately praying they would never find. But here is what will haunt you about this case. The signs were already there. The fear, the confusion, the moments that, looking back now, feel like a woman silently screaming for help that never came in time. This is not just a story about a disappearance. This is a story about everything that happened before it and the questions that may never fully be answered. This video contains details surrounding a real death investigation that some viewers may find deeply distressing. Please take care of yourselves as we go through this together. If you are new here, welcome to True Crime Exposed. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a case. And we love hearing from our community, so drop a comment below and let us know where in the world you are watching from. If this case has moved you, please hit like, share this video, and let's make sure Lena's story is heard. Lexington, South Carolina is not the kind of place where people go missing. It is a small, tight-knit city of approximately 23,000 people situated just west of Columbia, where neighbors know each other by name and a familiar face at the local gym is exactly that familiar. It is the kind of place where routine feels safe, where a woman driving to the gym on a Thursday evening is just a woman driving to the gym. That woman was Elena Katherine Moore, 39 years old, a personal trainer with deep roots in the local fitness community. Known to her clients, known to her coworkers, known to the staff at the Planet Fitness located at 560 Whiteford Way because Elena was there often enough that she was not just a member, she was a regular, a fixture, the kind of person whose presence at the gym was so consistent that when investigators later spoke to a complainant connected to the case, they confirmed it without hesitation. Elena frequented that gym. It was part of her routine. On the evening of the 11th of June 2026, Elena arrived at Planet Fitness and signed in at exactly 6:40 p.m. That sign-in record would later become one of the first hard anchors investigators had in building her timeline for that night. It told them where she was, and it told them when. What it could not tell them was what happened after she left. At some point after her workout, Elena walked out of that gym and headed in the direction of the wooded area behind the Lowe's home improvement store nearby. That direction, and what came next, would take investigators days to piece together. But a piece of footage obtained later in the investigation gave them their next fixed point. Surveillance cameras at the Publix grocery store parking lot located at 100 Old Cherokee Road captured Elena at 9:17 p.m. She was on foot. She was wearing an olive green zip-up hoodie and black athletic pants, the same outfit she had on when she left Planet Fitness. The footage confirmed she was moving in the direction of Old Cherokee Road. That was the last confirmed sighting of Elena Katherine Moore. Investigators would later note that it remained unclear whether Elena had her cell phone with her at any point that night. No outgoing calls, no messages, no digital trail that placed her beyond that parking lot. The phone question would remain open throughout the entire search. When morning came on Friday, June 12, Elena had not returned home. No call, no message, nothing. Her husband, Brannon Slice, contacted law enforcement and reported her missing. From that moment, the search for Elena Katherine Moore was officially underway. But the question that would drive the next 6 days, the question that kept investigators moving, kept the community watching, and kept a family waiting was the same one nobody could yet answer. Where did she go after that parking lot? Elena Katherine Moore stood 5 feet 7 inches tall, weighed approximately 120 pounds, and had brown hair and brown eyes. But to the people who knew her in Lexington, those were just the physical details printed on a flyer. To them, Elena was something more specific than a description. She was the personal trainer at Wolf's Fitness Center in Lexington, the woman who showed up, who put in the work, and who built a reputation in the local fitness community through consistency and presence. Fitness was not just her job, it was how she moved through the world. Her personal life had recently entered what looked like a new and settled chapter. Elena had married Brannon Slice the previous year. It is worth noting here that Brannon Slice is not an ordinary private citizen. He spent 14 years working for the Lexington County Sheriff's Department before transitioning into work as a private investigator. The man who would report his wife missing on June 12 understood law enforcement process from the inside. That context matters as the story moves forward. One of the people who spoke publicly about Elena in the days after she disappeared was her friend Lauren Beasley. Beasley told Fox News Digital that she had last spoken with Elena approximately 1 month before the disappearance. She described that last conversation as completely normal. Elena said nothing personal about anything she was going through. Nothing about her relationship, nothing about work, nothing that would have raised a flag. By all appearances, at least in that conversation, Elena seemed fine. But then Beasley added something that stopped people cold. Elena had gone silent on social media approximately 1 month before she vanished. And for anyone who knew Elena, that was not normal. Beasley described her as very active online, someone who posted regularly, who engaged with her community, who maintained a visible digital presence. The silence was not subtle. It was a full stop. And it had been going on for weeks before Elena ever left that gym on June 11. Wolf's Fitness Center, where Elena worked, responded publicly once news of her disappearance spread. They confirmed that they had provided all available information to police and pledged their full cooperation with the investigation going forward. They offered no further detail, but their willingness to go on record spoke to the kind of professional standing Elena held within the fitness world in Lexington. When news broke that she was missing, the community responded immediately. Friends, acquaintances, clients, and fellow fitness professionals flooded social media with shares, reposts, and calls for information. The Lexington Police Department, led by Police Chief Terrence Green, took the lead on the investigation. Detective Santoro was designated as the primary investigative contact with a direct line published publicly for anyone holding a piece of information that could help. Cases move fast, and this one was already moving. If you want to follow every development as it breaks, subscribe to True Crime Exposed right now. We cover cases like Elena's from the first report to the final answer, and we are not going anywhere. The investigation into Elena Moore's disappearance did not stay focused on June 11 for long, because as detectives dug deeper and the public began paying closer attention, something became clear. The night Elena walked out of that Publix parking lot was not the beginning of this story. It was closer to the end of one that had been building quietly for weeks. The first piece of footage that changed the direction of public understanding did not come from the night she disappeared. It came from approximately 1 week before, around the 4th of June, 2026. A couple named Sarah Burleson and John Moore lived about a half-mile from the Planet Fitness on Whiteford Way. They had a Ring doorbell camera. And what that camera captured on their doorstep would become one of the most discussed pieces of footage in the entire case. A DoorDash driver arrived at their home and left a food delivery at the door. Standard enough. What happened next was not. Elena Moore, who had no connection to that home and had not placed that order, walked up to the door and picked up the delivery as if it belonged to her. When John Moore opened the door and she handed the food back to him, the interaction that followed was deeply unsettling. Elena appeared visibly confused and disoriented. She seemed to have no clear awareness of where she was or what she was doing. She reportedly told the homeowner directly, in her own words, that she did not know what she was doing. That alone would have raised concern. But there was more. Approximately 1 hour after that DoorDash encounter, the same couple observed Elena going through a neighbor's package nearby. They noted that she did not appear to know what she was doing there either. The woman seen in that footage was not panicked or agitated. She was simply lost present in body, but somewhere else entirely in mind. That was June 4, 11 days before a body was found. But this is not where things started going wrong, because the timeline of unusual behavior stretches back even further than that doorbell camera. On the 31st of May 2026, nearly 2 weeks before Elena vanished, she attended a brunch with friends. One of those friends was Sandra Campbell, who described herself as a longtime friend of Elena's. Campbell later spoke directly to TMZ and gave an account of that afternoon that reframed everything. According to Campbell, Elena's behavior throughout the brunch was off. She was not relaxed. She was not present in the way she normally would have been. She repeatedly got up from her seat and moved toward the window, looking out as though she was watching for something or someone outside. Campbell said she did not say anything at the time because she did not feel close enough to the other women at the table to bring it up. But at the end of the brunch, as the group was saying their goodbyes, Elena pulled Campbell aside and spoke to her privately. She told Campbell that she was scared for her life. She gave no specific reason. She did not name a person or a threat. She said only that she was scared, that there were issues she was dealing with, and that she would fill Campbell in later. That later never came. Campbell told TMZ that she missed a call from Elena on June 4, the same day as the DoorDash incident at Sarah Burleson and John Moore's home, and never heard from her again after that. Private investigator Henry Dukes, who had been hired independently to help locate Elena and who appeared on national television throughout the search, spoke to what the combined picture of surveillance footage and witness accounts was telling investigators. His assessment was careful but direct. Something had been going on with Elena for a sustained period of time. This was not a single bad day or a one-off incident. The pattern stretched back weeks, and it pointed towards something deeper. When asked whether Elena's fear at that brunch reflected a real external danger, Dukes was measured. He said that through every individual he was able to speak with during the investigation, friends, family, people connected to Elena's life, he found no evidence that her life had been in danger from another person. Nobody he interviewed could corroborate the idea that someone was threatening her or that there was a legitimate physical threat she was running from. That left one question standing, a question that Dukes raised carefully and without conclusion, the possibility that what Elena had been experiencing in those final weeks was a mental health crisis. Not a certainty, not a diagnosis, a possibility, supported by the behavioral pattern visible across the footage and the accounts of the people around her. A source also told News Nation that Elena had been in a mental health facility at some point prior to her disappearance, a detail that had not come from law enforcement and had not been officially confirmed, but that added weight to what investigators were already seeing. And here is what made all of this harder to process. The friends and family that Dukes spoke with, the people closest to Elena, did not, for the most part, seem aware that anything serious had been unfolding. They had not connected the social media silence to the brunch behavior, to the DoorDash confusion, to the missed call on June 4. Each piece had existed in isolation. Nobody had assembled them into a full picture in time to act on it. A woman showing signs of serious distress for weeks. People around her who cared about her deeply but did not see what was coming. And a camera on someone's front door that captured the clearest evidence of all Elena Moore standing at a stranger's threshold, handing back food that was never hers, and telling the man at the door 4 words that now carry far more weight than they did in the moment she said them. She did not know what she was doing. When Brannon Slice filed the missing persons report on Friday, the 12th of June, 2026, the Lexington Police Department moved quickly. Whatever the circumstances surrounding Elena's disappearance, the department was not going to wait. By that same day, law enforcement had already begun the first phase of what would become a 6-day multi-agency search operation that drew national attention and ultimately reshaped the direction of the investigation through the involvement of the public itself. The initial response pulled in resources from across Lexington County. The Lexington Police Department took the lead under Police Chief Terrence Green. Alongside them came the Lexington County Sheriff's Department under Sheriff Jay Kuhn, Lexington County Fire Services, Lexington County Emergency Medical Services, Lexington County Communications, the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, and SLED. For a city of 23,000 people, the scope of that deployment was significant. It reflected both the seriousness with which authorities were treating the case and the fact that nobody yet knew what they were dealing with. The first search operation concentrated on the area closest to where Elena was, last confirmed to have been seen the wooded terrain behind the Lowe's home improvement store adjacent to Planet Fitness on Whiteford Way. Officers deployed a drone over that wooded region and conducted a preliminary check of the surrounding area on foot. The drone found nothing. The preliminary sweep found nothing. Elena was not there. That result did not close the search. It redirected it. On Monday, the 15th of June 2026, officers returned to that same general corridor and expanded the effort. Numerous personnel from the Lexington Police Department performed a detailed ground search of the wooded areas along Cobbin Farm Lane, running directly behind the Lowe's Home Improvement Store and the Planet Fitness Gym. It was a more thorough and more methodical sweep than the initial drone pass. The result was the same. No trace of Elena Katherine Moore was found during that operation. Police Chief Terrence Green was deliberate in how he framed these searches to the public. He was clear that these were not recovery operations. The language he used was specific and intentional. These were targeted, precise efforts to systematically rule out one location at a time. That framing mattered. It told the public that investigators had not concluded anything. It kept the search active and open, and it kept the tip line moving. That tip line, managed through Detective Santoro at the Lexington Police Department, was treated throughout this investigation not as a formality, but as a genuine investigative tool. The department published the contact number repeatedly across official releases. Tips could also be submitted anonymously through Midland's Crime Stoppers at 1-888-CRIMESC or through their website. Public engagement was not an afterthought. It was built into the architecture of how this search was being run. Also on June 15, police had to address something else entirely: misinformation. Reports began circulating online claiming that Elena had already been found. The Lexington Police Department moved quickly to shut that down, releasing a public correction stating those reports were false and apologizing for any confusion the misinformation had caused. That the department felt the need to correct false reports mid-search spoke to how much attention the case was already drawing and how quickly unverified claims were spreading. Midway through the search, a significant development changed the geographic focus of the operation. The Lexington Police Department released newly obtained surveillance footage showing Elena walking through the Publix grocery store parking lot at 100 Old Cherokee Road on the night she disappeared. That footage placed her in a different location than previously understood, walking in the direction of Old Cherokee Road at 9:17 p.m. It widened the search corridor considerably and prompted investigators to reconsider where resources needed to be concentrated. Private investigator Henry Dukes, who had been retained independently to assist in locating Elena, spoke publicly about that footage. He described it as genuinely helpful but incomplete. It confirmed a direction of travel. It told investigators she was moving toward Old Cherokee Road, but it did not tell them how far she went or where she stopped. Dukes added important context that complicated the assumptions investigators might have been tempted to make. Elena was a fitness professional. She was physically conditioned and entirely comfortable covering distance on foot. That meant the search radius could not be narrowed too quickly based on assumptions about how far a person might walk. And then came a detail that quietly restructured the timeline. A community tip came in indicating that Elena had been seen in the area of North Lake Drive and Old Cherokee Road between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on June 11 before she even arrived at Planet Fitness at 6:40 p.m. that evening. That tip placed her in the same general area earlier in the day than investigators had previously been working with. It meant Elena's movements on June 11 were more complex than the gym to parking lot corridor originally suggested. On June 17, acting on that information, police launched a new and focused search operation. They shifted their attention to the wooded areas near Lakeside Middle School at 455 Old Cherokee Road. By 3:40 p.m. that day, Old Cherokee Road had been closed between North Lake Drive and Berkshire Drive. No through traffic was permitted. Residents of the Berkshire subdivision were directed to access their neighborhood from the Pilgrim Church side of Old Cherokee Road and to notify officers they were residents to be allowed through. Police Chief Terrence Green later acknowledged directly that national media coverage of the case had played a meaningful role in generating the tips that ultimately moved the search to that location. The attention the case received nationally brought in information that local outreach alone might not have surfaced. 6 days of searching. Multiple agencies, drones, ground sweeps, public releases, surveillance footage, corrected misinformation, a revised timeline, and a tip line that stayed open every hour of every day. And still, as of the morning of June 17, no confirmed answer. Cases like this one do not solve themselves. They depend on people paying attention, staying informed, and sharing what they know. If you want to follow investigations like Elena's as they develop in real time, subscribe to True Crime Exposed right now. We are here from the first missing persons report to the final determination, and we do not stop until there are answers. The tip that changed everything did not come from a detective. It did not come from a surveillance system or a digital trace. It came from a resident. Sometime the evening before June 17, a member of the community contacted law enforcement and told them something specific. They said they had seen Elena Moore walking into the woods in the area near Lakeside Middle School on Old Cherokee Road after she had been seen at the Publix parking lot on June 11. That single piece of information gave investigators something they had been working toward for 6 days. A fixed point, a direction, a place to look. The following morning, on the 17th of June 2026, the Lexington Police Department acted on it. By approximately 1:30 p.m., officers and fire personnel had launched an extensive, targeted search of the wooded areas along Old Cherokee Road. The agencies assembled for that final operation represented the full scope of the response that had built over the previous 6 days. Present were personnel from the Lexington County Sheriff's Department, Lexington County Fire Services, Lexington County Emergency Medical Services, Lexington County Communications, South Carolina Probation, Parole and Pardon Services, the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources, the South Carolina Highway Patrol, SLED, and the Lexington County Coroner's Office. It was not a small operation. It was a coordinated, multi-agency search conducted by people who understood exactly what they might find. They did not have to search long. At approximately 2:48 p.m., roughly 1 hour and 18 minutes after the search began, officers located a body in the wooded area near the intersection of Old Cherokee Road and North Lake Drive, close to the Berkshire subdivision. The search that had stretched across 6 days, multiple agencies, drones, ground sweeps, and thousands of tips ended in just over an hour once investigators knew precisely where to look. The clothing on the body told investigators what they already feared: an olive green zip-up hoodie, black athletic pants. The same outfit Elena Katherine Moore had been wearing when she signed into Planet Fitness on the evening of June 11, the same outfit visible in the Publix parking lot footage at 9:17 p.m. that same night. The clothing match was confirmed on scene. Police Chief Terrence Green addressed the public at a press conference held just before 6:30 p.m. He was measured and precise in what he said and what he did not say. He confirmed that at approximately 2:48 p.m., law enforcement had located an unidentified body that fit the clothing description of their missing person. He confirmed that the Lexington County coroner was working to establish identity. He confirmed that SLED had been requested to lead the death investigation. And when asked directly whether foul play was suspected, Green declined to answer that question. His response was clear. It was an active investigation. SLED was investigating. That was all he would say. He also confirmed one additional detail that had not previously been made public. Elena's vehicle had been with her husband the entire time. She had been on foot from the moment she left Planet Fitness. Sheriff Jay Kuhn stood alongside Green at that press conference. The joint presence of both the police chief and the county sheriff at a single public statement communicated something without words. This was no longer a missing persons case. The nature of the situation had changed, and the institutional response reflected that. Lexington County Coroner Margaret Fisher issued a formal statement from her office that same evening. The statement was brief and precise. Fisher confirmed that she could confirm the body of a female matching the clothing description of the missing person, Elena K. Moore had been found in the area of Old Cherokee Road and North Lake Drive. She confirmed that no positive identification had been made. She confirmed that no cause of death had been determined. She asked for patience as the process of identification moved forward, noting that it would take time. No further information would be released until that identification was confirmed. SLED echoed that position. Any information regarding the identity of the deceased would come from the Lexington County Coroner's Office. SLED's role was the death investigation itself, the full scope of circumstances surrounding how that body came to be in those woods. Henry Dukes returned to national television that evening. The private investigator who had spent days publicly advocating for Elena's safe return now had to address an outcome that nobody had wanted. He was direct. This was not the outcome anyone had been praying for. It was not what the family had hoped for. It was not what anyone working on the case had wanted to find. He stated clearly that he had no information regarding cause of death or the specific circumstances surrounding the discovery. That responsibility, he said, had fully transferred to law enforcement and to Coroner Margaret Fisher. When asked about foul play, Dukes did not speculate. He said he had no ability to rule anything in or out. That determination belonged to the official investigation and to SLED. On the family, Dukes was careful and human. Brannon Slice and those close to Elena were described as distraught, very upset, deeply emotional. 6 days of searching, 6 days of hoping, and the answer that arrived at 2:48 p.m. on a Wednesday afternoon was the one they had spent every hour of those 6 days trying to avoid. A 6-day search that drew national attention, mobilized a dozen agencies, prompted surveillance footage releases, generated public tip lines, and moved through wooded terrain across multiple corridors of Lexington County did not end with relief. It ended with a body in the woods, a coroner's statement with no identification, a cause of death still unknown, and a family left to wait for answers that would take weeks, possibly months, to arrive. The questions that remained were not small ones, and they were not going away. As of the 18th of June, 2026, the day after the body was found, Lexington County Coroner Margaret Fisher has not issued a formal identification. The autopsy has been scheduled but not yet conducted. Toxicology results, when they are eventually ordered, will take time. Private investigator Henry Dukes, drawing on years of experience with cases that have followed this same path, put it plainly. The completion of toxicology reports and a full autopsy can take anywhere from weeks to months before results come back. There is no shortcut in that process. The family of Elena Katherine Moore, the community of Lexington, and everyone watching this case nationally will be waiting. SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division, is now leading the death investigation in full. Their mandate is not narrow. They are not simply confirming an identity or recording a cause of death. They are investigating all of the circumstances surrounding how Elena came to be in those woods. Every detail of her final movements, every piece of footage, every witness account, every behavioral pattern from the weeks before her disappearance, all of it falls within the scope of what SLED is now examining. The question of foul play has not been confirmed. It has not been ruled out. It sits exactly where Police Chief Terrence Green left it at that press conference, open, active, and under investigation. And that open question matters more because of what remains unexplained. There is a gap in the timeline that no official has yet accounted for publicly. A community tip placed Elena in the area of North Lake Drive and Old Cherokee Road between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. on June 11, more than 2 hours before she signed into Planet Fitness at 6:40 p.m. that same evening. What was she doing in that area before her gym visit? Where had she come from? Where was she going? Those questions have not been answered. They may become central to everything SLED is now piecing together. Then there is the behavioral thread that ran through the weeks before June 11 and still has no official explanation. The social media silence that began approximately 1 month before she vanished. The fear statement made to Sandra Campbell at brunch on May 31, the disorientation captured on a Ring doorbell camera around June 4, the missed call from Elena that Campbell never got to return. Each of those moments was documented. None of them has been officially diagnosed or explained by any authority. The mental health possibility raised by Henry Dukes during the investigation remains exactly that, a possibility. It was not confirmed by law enforcement. It was not confirmed by medical records made public. The friends and family Dukes spoke with during the search did not corroborate it when directly interviewed. And Brannon Slice, the husband who spent 14 years with the Lexington County Sheriff's Department before becoming a private investigator, the man who reported Elena missing on June 12, the man described throughout this investigation as distraught and deeply emotional. His account of the weeks leading up to June 11 has not been made public. What he observed, what he knew, what changed in the weeks before Elena disappeared, none of that has entered the public record yet. Lauren Beasley said that Elena went completely quiet on social media about a month before she vanished. At the time Beasley said it, it was a detail that described someone acting out of character. In light of what was found on June 17, that silence reads differently now. A month of quiet from a woman known for her online presence. A month in which something was clearly shifting and nobody around her had assembled the full picture in time. Elena worked at Wolf's Fitness Center. She trained at Planet Fitness. 2 gyms, 1 routine. A woman who built her life and her career around physical discipline and showing up. And on the night of June 11, after signing into Planet Fitness at 6:40 p.m., she walked out into a Lexington evening and ended up in a wooded area less than a mile from where she was last seen on camera. That distance is not large. The questions it raises are, what also cannot be overlooked is the role the public played in this case from beginning to end. It was community tips that drove the early search. It was national media coverage that Police Chief Terrence Green directly credited for generating the lead that redirected the final operation on June 17. It was a resident who made the call the night before that put officers in those woods with a specific location to work from. This case was not solved by technology alone. It was moved forward by people who were paying attention. Elena Katherine Moore was 39 years old, a personal trainer, a wife, a known and valued presence in a small South Carolina city where people recognized her face and knew her name. Her final movements were captured on camera. Her final hours are not yet understood. And the answers, if and when they come, will emerge slowly through an autopsy, through a toxicology process, and through a SLED investigation that is still only at its beginning. This case is not closed. It is not resolved. It is active, and it deserves continued attention. If Elena's story has moved you, share this video so that more people find it and keep her name in circulation. Subscribe to True Crime Exposed right now, because when this investigation produces answers, we will be here to cover every development with the same depth and accuracy you have seen in this documentary. Drop a comment below with your thoughts, your questions, and where in the world you are watching from. And if this video gave you value, hit the like button. It takes 1 second and it helps this story reach the people who need to hear it. Elena Katherine Moore deserves answers. Her family deserves answers. And until those answers come, the least the rest of us can do is make sure nobody looks away